When most people picture a millionaire, they imagine luxury cars, giant homes, or some overnight success story. But when you strip away the stereotypes and look at what real millionaires actually do with their money, the truth is almost the opposite of what you see online. And the best part? We don't need opinions or guesses to understand it. We have hard data. Every 3 years, the Federal Reserve releases one of the most detailed reports on household finances in the country, how people save, spend, invest, and build wealth over time. And buried inside that data is a clear pattern. The households that eventually reach a 7-figure net worth share a handful of habits that almost never make headlines. They're not glamorous, they're not extreme, but they work consistently across millions of families. Before we jump in, if you appreciate money content that's grounded in facts instead of hype, feel free to subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Alright, let's break down the 5 core habits that show up again and again among real-world millionaires. Habit 1. They treat saving as a system, not a mood. One of the biggest differences between millionaire households and everyone else isn't income, it's structure. Most people save when they feel like it, when the month goes smoothly, when nothing unexpected happens. Millionaires don't operate that way. Saving isn't an emotional decision, it's a built-in system. According to Federal Reserve data, millionaire households consistently save a far higher percentage of their income than the average American. Not once in a while. Not only when bonuses come in, every year, across decades, even in years where life is messy. And here's the subtle detail most people miss. Their savings rate rises as their income rises. When a non-millionaire gets a raise, lifestyle absorbs it. When a future millionaire gets a raise, savings absorb it first. The result is that their wealth accelerates long before their lifestyle does. And this isn't discipline or superhuman willpower, it's automation. Retirement contributions happen automatically. Brokerage investments happen automatically. Savings transfers happen automatically. By the time the money reaches their checking account, the decision has already been made. Millionaires don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems that keep working, even on the days when they don't feel like being disciplined. If you're liking this breakdown so far and want more data-driven money content, make sure to hit the like button. It helps push this video to more people just like you. Habit 2. They get invested early and stay invested no matter what. If Habit 1 explains how millionaires build fuel, Habit 2 explains how they light it. Millionaires don't wait for the perfect moment to invest. They don't sit on the sidelines trying to predict crashes or waiting until they feel ready. In fact, Federal Reserve data shows something incredibly simple about wealthy households. They start investing earlier, and they stay invested longer. Period. They put money into the market even when it feels uncomfortable. Even when headlines scream recession. Even when friends panic and pull everything into cash. That consistency is what separates long-term winners from everyone else. Most millionaire households own equities through 401ks, IRAs, index funds, and brokerage accounts. Not because they're market geniuses, but because they understand a basic truth. The market rewards participation, not perfection. Compounding doesn't care if you're scared. It doesn't care if the timing isn't perfect. It doesn't care if you only contribute a little at first. It only cares that you show up and keep showing up. And that's exactly what millionaires do. They ride through the boring years, the volatile years, the headline-driven chaos, and because they stay in, they give compounding enough time to do what compounding always does, turn small contributions into serious wealth over multiple decades. Millionaires aren't courageous investors, they're patient ones. They win because they don't leave the game. Habit 3. They maximize tax-advantaged space before anything else. If investing is the engine, tax-advantaged accounts are the frame that makes the whole machine efficient. Millionaires don't treat retirement accounts as an optional add-on or something they get to when life settles down. They treat them as the default home for their money. Before brokerage accounts, before side investments, before anything flashy, they max out the tax-sheltered space that gives their dollars the longest runway to grow. 401ks, IRAs, Roths, HSAs. Every tool the tax code allows, they use it, year after year, and the data backs this up clearly. Federal Reserve numbers show that a huge portion of millionaire net worth sits inside these accounts. Not because millionaires love retirement plans, but because tax drag is one of the biggest silent killers of wealth. Every dollar that compounds without being taxed becomes exponentially more powerful over time. But here's the key. Millionaires aren't obsessed with choosing the perfect tax strategy. They don't waste years debating Roth versus traditional or trying to optimize every bracket. They simply contribute consistently and let the math take over. Perfection comes second. Participation comes first. Millionaires win because they use every bit of legal shelter available, and they do it every single year, not just the years when money feels abundant. Habit 4. They control their largest expenses, especially housing. When people imagine millionaires, they picture huge homes, dramatic upgrades, and constant lifestyle expansion. But the data tells a very different story. Millionaires don't become wealthy because they upgrade. They become wealthy because they delay upgrading. Across Federal Reserve surveys, one pattern shows up repeatedly. Millionaire households carry significantly lower fixed costs relative to their income. Their mortgages don't swallow their paychecks. Their car payments don't stretch them thin. Their lifestyle isn't built on debt. Instead of expanding every time income rises, they keep their baseline steady and let the gap turn into savings and investing power. Housing is the clearest example of this. Non-millionaire households often have most of their wealth tied up in their home. Millionaire households? Their home becomes a smaller slice of the pie over time. Not because the house shrinks, but because everything else grows. They buy responsibly, they stay put, they avoid serial upgrading, and they keep their debt loads manageable. That stability creates something incredibly important: margin. Margin to save during downturns, margin to invest consistently, margin to survive job changes, market volatility, or a bad financial year without derailing everything. Millionaires don't focus on looking wealthy. They focus on staying flexible, and that flexibility is what allows their wealth to compound in the background while life continues in the foreground. Habit 5. They stay in the game for decades. If there's one habit that separates real millionaires from everyone else, it's not brilliance. It's duration. Most millionaires don't hit 7 figures in their 20s or even their 30s. The Federal Reserve data shows something far less glamorous, but far more achievable. The majority reach that milestone in their late 50s or early 60s, after decades of simply staying invested. That slow, early progress everyone hates. That's normal. That's how compounding works. In the first 10 or even 15 years, your net worth barely budges. You're saving, you're investing, you're doing everything right, and it still feels like nothing's happening. But then, somewhere in the middle years, the curve bends. The growth stops relying on your contributions and starts multiplying on its own. What looks like sudden wealth is really the delayed effect of consistency. Millionaires aren't chasing spikes or shortcuts. They don't jump in and out when headlines get scary. They stay through recessions, through market cycles, through the boring years when progress feels invisible. Because they know that compounding doesn't reward intensity, it rewards time. The real habit is patience. The real skill is staying invested long enough to let the math finally show itself. At the end of the day, becoming a millionaire isn't about extreme frugality or extreme income. It's not a secret formula, and it's definitely not reserved for a lucky few. The Federal Reserve data makes it clear. The people who reach 7 figures are the ones who repeat the right behaviors long enough for them to work. Saving becomes a system, investing becomes automatic, lifestyle stays flexible, and time does the heavy lifting that no one sees in the beginning. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. You don't need hacks. You need habits. You don't need to sprint. You just need to stay on the path. So let me ask you this. Which of these 5 habits are you building right now? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to see where you're at in your journey. And if you want to go deeper into how ordinary people quietly build wealth over decades, check out the video appearing on your screen next. It breaks down the psychology and math behind long-term financial growth in a way that's easy to apply starting today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.